Okay. Now, as I've said earlier, the subject of homosexuality, and let's not forget that homosexuality covers both males and females, is an immensely personal one. But that doesn't alter the fact that we can't talk about it. So let's at least attempt to take as much emotionalism out of it. For some people, I realize, on either side of the fence, this will be a very difficult thing to do. Now, as dictatorial as it may sound, I'm going to lay down some basic and firm rules. If you want to talk about this subject, well and good, but I'm not going to tolerate any bitchiness or reference to anyone that could hurt or embarrass persons or people. This is adult radio, so let's be adults, okay? Any deviation, and I'll have no hesitation to cut you off. So for the next 45 minutes, I'll only take calls on the subject of, and I've termed it, is gay liberation becoming too gay? Let's have a look at part of the brighter side of gay liberation and the gay subject of homosexuality. And here's something from Archie Bunker.
What is all this anyway? What do you got here? What is it? Whipped cream there?
It's clam dip.
Clam dip? What's this? What kind of fish is that?
Smoked salmon.
Smoked salmon? I only get tuna fish for my lunch. Who are you having here, the Duke of Windsor?
What difference would it make? Whoever it is, you're not going to like them. You don't like anything about us. You resent our attitudes, our politics, even the clothes we wear. You know, I don't think there's one thing about us you agree with.
I agree with that. But that don't answer the question. Who's the big cheese you're having here for lunch?
Roger.
Roger the fairy?
All right.
Did you hear that, Edith? Do you know who they're bringing around here for lunch? Roger, sweetie, pie Roger.
All right, just cut it out, huh?
It's their friend, Archie.
Listen, Edith, we run a decent home here. And we don't need any strange little birdies flying in and out of it.
Dad, stop that. Roger's not a strange little birdie.
His pal Roger is as queer as a $4 bill, and he knows it.
That's not only cruel, Daddy, that's an outright lie.
You know something, Archie? Just because a guy is sensitive and he's an intellectual and he wears glasses, you make him out of queer.
I never said a guy who wears glasses is a queer. A guy who wears glasses is a four-eyes. A guy who is a fag is a queer. Well, go ahead, Edith. Now answer the girl. Now, you've seen Roger sashaying around here with his la-di-da talk. He's a pansy.
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I'm not an expert on flowers.
You might as well face it. You're all alone in this. We all know Roger, and we all know he's straight. And even if he wasn't, and I said if, what difference would that make? Do you know that in many countries, England, for instance, there is a law that says whatever two consenting adults do in private is their own business?
Listen, this ain't England. We threw England out of here a long time ago. We don't want no more part of England. And for your information, England is a fag country. What? Say, ain't they still picking handkerchiefs out of their sleeve, huh? The whole society is based on a kind of a fagdom.
You know you're right, Archie. You're right. The British are a bunch of pansies. Pansies, fairies, and sissies. And the Japanese are a race of midgets. The Irish are boozers. The Mexicans are bandits.
And you Polacks are meatheads.
Yeah, well, that's one side of it. And I suppose what I admire most of all about the gay society, or the homosexual society, is their remarkable ability to be able to laugh at themselves. Well, if you feel like that, as it was described in the Archie Bunker tape, or track, let's hear from you. My number is 929-5555. And also, let's hear from you if you feel otherwise.
This is 2UE. The number to talk to Peter Martin is 929-5555. 929-5555.
And our subject is gay liberation. Good evening.
Hey, Peter.
Yes, sir? Would you speak up, please?
Yes.
Right.
This homosexual business.
Yes, sir.
I spent most of my life in the country areas,
Yes.
And I'm not going to talk about the whys and the wherefores of it, just to put this to you.
I'll be very interested to hear.
That's my life in the country areas, working amongst stock, and the natural inclination for stock is the male gravitates to the female. In all cases, I've never seen a male bull gravitate to a male bull. I've never seen a female cow gravitate to a female cow. I can't understand why humans, who are supposed to be the super intelligent race of all nature, want to do this sort of thing.
Well, I don't want to sound too down to earth, because after all, we're allowed to say some things over the air, and we're not allowed to say other things. But I strongly challenge you on the fact that the lower animal life only gravitate towards members of the opposite sex, because this certainly is not quite true.
I have no fear of that. As I say, I worked amongst these animals up in the country areas for most of my life.
Let me ask you this question, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Have you any children?
I have 2 children.
Mm-hmm. What would your reaction be if you discovered one way or another that one of your children turned out to be a homosexual?
Well, I think I would try to find out what caused him or her to go that way.
Would you do that by yourself?
No.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think there are people who would be more expert at this sort of thing and trained to deal with it, more expert than I could be, but I would at least. I wouldn't say, well, that's it, get out, I don't want you about the place. I think there must be a bit on the sick side.
Oh, well, that's your opinion, and I respect it very much indeed. The thing is, of course, that what I'm trying to get at is, suppose that there is no cure, quote unquote, and to the best of my knowledge, there is no cure for homosexuality. What would you do with your son or daughter? Would you throw them out?
I'm afraid I would have to be faced with the situation.
What does that mean?
I couldn't tell you without being actually faced with the situation.
No. Well, thank you very much for your call, sir, and thank you for your interest in the program.
Right, thank you.
Right, good night. And we're talking about homosexuality tonight. Good evening.
Hello?
Yes?
I'm ringing from the coast.
You're?
You and talking about homosexuals.
Yes, okay. Now, let's remember one thing. Before we go any further, let's remember one thing. No names, okay? No names.
No, I know this.
Right, okay.
But do you mind if I tell you that I'm Karen?
No, I don't mind.
Well, I'm Karen.
Before you go any...
I'm one of those persons what would think this, that I would, rather be a homosexual than be a drug addict, than an alcoholic, because an alcoholic is killing himself the same as a drug addict, and a homosexual is not doing no harm to anybody. And I think that this is the way it should be.
Let me ask you this. Have you any personal problems, or have you faced any personal problems by people rejecting you because you are?
As a homosexual, I had a lot of problems with friends, and I was kind of lonely. So I decided I'll change my life. And ever since I've changed my life, I've had fantastic fun, but I've never gone, to bed with Tom, Dick and Harry, because I'm not that kind of person.
I see.
But I've really had fantastic fun, and I fell in love with a guy, and I really got hurt by this guy because he wanted to be a drag queen too.
Oh, let me
tell me this until after I, fell in love with him, and I really got hurt then.
Yeah.
But I've only been hurt once.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for...
by square guys. I've been hurt plenty by even my own friends, didn't want nothing to do with me.
Mm.
And I've met a lot of camp people, and they're very understanding and they're very nice.
Good.
I'm not only saying this because I'm camp, I'm saying this because I know what I believe what's right in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a homosexual isn't doing anybody any harm, and it's the square people what does harm more than anything in the world,
Fine. Well, look, let's take a couple of other calls, and thank you very much for sharing your opinion with us. Okay?
Yeah,
good night.
Thanks very much.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm a homosexual.
Yes.
Firstly, I'd like to comment on that first gentleman who rang. I worked in an abattoirs for 12 years, and regarding his comment about animals, I think he must get around with his eyes shut.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was my main comment. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to ask me.
Well, I just wanted to find out whether you've had any, how shall I put it, any personal problems about people rejecting you because of the fact that you are a homosexual. Do you have to lead a double life, for example?
No, not anymore. I used to, a few years ago, I was once married and I have a child. I'm now divorced and live a, camp life sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay, thanks very much.
Okay.
Bye. Gay liberation is the subject for tonight, and 2UE time is 27.5 minutes past 11. Hello?
Good evening, Peter.
Good evening.
The way people go on, you'd think it was only in this century that homosexuality has been prevalent. It's always been prevalent, hasn't it?
I think it's become more to the fore these days. People talk about it more than they did perhaps even 10, 5, 15 years ago.
But we don't seem to accept it into our society like they did in Roman and Spartan. If you go back to the history of Sparta, it was they accepted men, and they were only forced to marry for procreation.
Yes.
This must carry on down to our forebears.
Yes.
And I think it's very sad. I've known 3. We had a dancing studio, and they were really beautiful people.
Yeah, well, why shouldn't they be?
They were funny little, very much bitchy like women can be.
Yeah.
Really bitchy, but gorgeous, you could cuddle them, but I don't think they could help how they were.
No.
And I don't think any amount of treatment, we must learn to tolerate people that we think are deviates, but they may not be.
Yeah, what's the definition?
It's the way. Their crimes have gone astray or something, but they're happy in themselves if only people would leave them alone.
Yes, what's the definition of normal, eh?
That is right.
Mm-hmm. Fine, thanks for your call. It's nice to hear from you. Bye. And if you'd like to call me, my number is 929 5555. Good evening. Hello.
Hello.
Yes?
I was bringing up about this gay liberation that you're talking about at the moment.
Well, we're talking about homosexuality as a whole, yes?
Yes. Well, firstly, myself, I've been a homosexual since I was about 15, and I was thinking on the lines where this gay liberation is a good thing for our people.
What do you mean by...
I think there's another organisation in Sydney called CAMP, which is doing the same sort of thing. About helping us be accepted in the world as same kind of people as everyone else is.
Tell me this, do your parents know that you are a homosexual, or as the word is, perhaps I should explain to our listeners that the common usage of homosexual is camp or gay.
Yes.
Do your parents know about it?
Well, I only have a mother. My father died quite a few years ago, but I think my mother has a fair idea. I think every parent has a fair idea about their child if they're camp, because their attitudes and personality and everything changes.
Okay, let's take a couple more calls. Thank you for calling.
Right.
Okay, bye. This is Peter Martin. My number is 929 5555.
Now heat it another 7.5 degrees and compare it to the reagent index. The Scott and Bown Research Laboratory, where new S&B health products, beauty products, and pharmaceutical products are developed. Scott and Bown work to the very highest ethical standards. They have to, because they make products to make living better. And one more thing, S&B products still manage to keep prices way down to supermarket levels.
If you'd like to talk to Peter Martin, 929-5555 is the telephone number. You can ring now, 929-5555. It's 29 to 12.
This is Radio 2UE Sydney, bringing you Wednesday afternoon's best sporting service with descriptions of all races from Sydney and Melbourne.
Top news stories of the hour. A young man and a girl have been apprehended, and the driver of a stolen car is still at large in the Chullora area after a massive police chase. The fate of two mini-submarine crewmen in Florida remains unknown as the pair continue to lie motionless inside the craft, which has been undergoing a depressurization operation. 2 people have died and another 6 are missing in a ferry sinking in Fiji. A Filipino musician and his family are returning to Australia after leaving here under threat of deportation in 1971. Next news at midnight. This is 2UE, it's 28 to 12. 929-5555 is the telephone number for Peter Martin.
And we're talking about gay liberation and society's attitudes towards it. And I was just wondering whether there are any parents listening who've experienced, no doubt, sometimes the embarrassing situation of having found out that their son or daughter is a homosexual. I would be very interested to hear from them. Good evening.
Oh, good evening.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, the subject that you're on at the moment, I have been very deeply involved with.
In what way?
Well, I am not a homosexual. I'm not camp. I'm a real square myself. But I have a clothing manufacturing business, and I have come in contact with these people, well, 4 days out of 5 of a week. And I have found they are most genuine. They need a lot of help in a lot of different ways to cope with the situation that square people won't accept them.
Yeah.
There are only very few people that do. I don't keep the best of health, but as soon as any of these people know that I am down, they're the very first people to come to my assistance in every way, shape and form. And they take me to different organisations after we've done the gowns for a show and so forth. And the treatment that is laid at my feet is just so superb. And yet, I just can't speak enough about them.
Good. Well, thank you for telling us about it. Okay?
Good.
Good.
Thank you
Good
very
night.
much.
You know, one of the things, of course, about homosexuality as a whole is that so many people confuse homosexuality with effeminacy, which means that a person is rather effeminate in their behaviour. And there's a vast difference. Good evening.
Yes, I'd like to comment that I'm not a homosexual, but I really cannot differentiate between the heterosexual and homosexual love.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please?
Yes, I'm not a homosexual, but I cannot really differentiate between heterosexual and homosexual love. So both feel, in both cases, the people feel responsible to each other and in a lot of cases devoted to each other.
Yes.
Humans are sensitive people and capable of loving.
Yes.
And it's just in some cases they want to really express this love.
Yes, it is quite abhorrent to a heterosexual person, the thought that 2 people of the same sex, whether they be male or female, could possibly have any feeling of love and wanting to share their life with a person of the same sex.
Yes, but see, this sort of love can be lasting and very full. And you know, when you compare to the despondency of the world in a lot of cases, the ability and the right to express their love is something which should be really encouraged in a lot of ways.
On the other hand, of course, there is a lot of uptightness too in the gay world, isn't there? A lot of uptightness, isn't there? There's such a lot of so-called promiscuity.
Yeah.
There's always people that are looking for greener pastures, as it were. Far more, I think, than the heterosexual world. I may be wrong on this.
I don't know. It's probably so, but you know, when you consider promiscuity in the heterosexual situation, and when you consider that the homosexual person is up against the entire society, he must really be feeling something strong in order to stand up for women.
Excuse me. Yes, quite true. Okay. Thank you very much for calling.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
And we're talking about homosexuality and acceptance in our society today. My number is 929-5555.
Good
evening.
Good evening.
Yes, sir.
I'm homosexual. I'm 60 years of age.
Yes.
I've led a professional life all my life. I've had to lead a double life. And this nonsense that goes on about hetero and bisexual life is a lot of nonsense, because it doesn't always involve sex. People love people for people, and the fact that you have shall we say, a sexual kind of intercourse is by the way.
Yes.
Now, as I said, I've listened to your program tonight, and it's time that this has really been given an airing. I'm a pommy here on holiday in Australia, and I'm delighted that you are able to air this kind of problem.
I think it's a problem, sir, that needs to be aired without any emotionalism, or as little emotionalism as possible.
Absolutely. I agree entirely. I've been in the psychiatric field looking after people with disturbed personalities for many years, and I've sat in on groups and been actually exposed and asking me why I wasn't married.
Yes.
Now, I'm 60 years of age, and I've never been married, but I'm not likely to be either. But they talk about penis envy, and gynecologist takes a uterus out, and
okay, let's not become too let's not become too clinical,
nonsense that goes on.
Okay, thank you very much for your opinion, and
well, I hope you do put it across.
I am. You're on the air right now.
Well, and it doesn't matter whether it's a man or a woman, or two men or two women.
That's very true.
Sexual intercourse is by the way.
Very true. Thank you very much for your point of view, sir.
Goodbye.
Good night. My number is 929-5555. Good evening.
I'd like to know just exactly how I stand as far as the homosexual business is concerned.
We're interested in hearing what you have to say, sir.
Well, now, I'm an older man. I've always had an abhorrence for the word homosexual, and looked upon a person who has been dubbed homosexual as a filthy person. It seems that the sex act does not necessarily come into this matter.
No, not all.
Would that be right?
Yes, yes. I think that there are although our society tends to look upon it as being a strictly sexual act between two people, I think there are far deeper consequences of this.
Well, that would be all right, provided that there is no... Because the fact of one male cohabiting with another male, the very filth of it, to me, is so abhorrent that I shudder.
Yeah.
I could understand something emotional between two people, but limited, of course, only by that, and not in any way having anything to do with a filthy act, because it can be nothing more than filthy. Well, if I know that I'm a man and there's a woman...
Yeah, okay, let's not become too clinical about it, okay?
Well, very well then. When does one know when a person is dubbed homosexual, whether he is a person who comes within my scope of thinking this person is it's a filthy act, or when do I say he is not a filthy person.
Okay, well, let's put that question to some of the people that are ready to share part of this program. Thank you for calling.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
I'd like to take up on the point that the caller made a short while ago about homosexuals having hang-ups. Now, the hang-ups which the majority of homosexuals have are not inherently caused by their homosexuality. In most cases, they're caused by society's attitude to homosexuals, to homosexuality. If society were to view homosexuality as not as something particularly filthy or disgusting, but merely as an alternative form of sexuality, without setting any moral judgment on it, I think this would probably be very much, a step in the right direction. It would be the biggest step in the right direction.
Could you speak up a bit, please?
We could ever possibly take. I think if the majority of society was to accept homosexuals as people primarily, and not worry so much about the sex, which was the point that you just made, that it's the love, it's the feeling of one person for another which is important, whereas normally the accent is put on the sex rather than the it's put on the sex part rather than the homo part.
Yes, rather than the love part. Okay, thanks very much for calling.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. This is Peter Martin. My number is 929-5555.
We can help you clean up, clean up and fix up too. What a team, your hardware store and you.
For all your timber and hardware, team up with J.M. Robinson, the North Shore's only one-stop building shop in Herbert Street, Artarmon. The J.M. Robinson team deliver anywhere in the metropolitan area. J.M. Robinson, Herbert Street, Artarmon.
And this is Peter Martin, and we're talking about homosexuality. Good evening.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, could you speak up a bit, please?
I'm just pointing out that nobody who claims to be a Christian could possibly accept homosexuality. It should be possibly diverted into right channels, but it's forbidden absolutely entirely, and I think it's positively disgusting to hear people who claim to be Christians, and some of them must, defying God's law. It's definitely given to us.
Then how do you ask people who are homosexuals and how do you ask people who are homosexuals and who want to be Christians at the same time?
Well, I think they'd better turn to their Bible and get some lessons from the one truth.
Okay, thank you very much for your call. Good night. Good evening.
Hello.
Yes?
This is a trunk call. I'm speaking from Queensland.
Oh, thank you very much for calling.
I just wanted to contribute to the program, please.
I'm very happy you're on the air right now.
Thank you. Just to say this, that I too, like the last speaker, am a Christian.
Yes.
And of course, the Christian is taught by God that the place to find out what God's will is in the Holy Scripture. And we are told a tremendous lot about homosexuality in the Scripture, tremendous lot. And some of it is very, very terrible. For example, the story where God sent two angelic beings to rescue his family, a family that belonged to him, out of the city that was rife with homosexuality before it was destroyed.
You're talking about Sodom and Gomorrah.
That's right, because they said, we will destroy this place because the cry of them is waxen great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it.
Well, thank you very much for telling us, and thank you...
Might I just say one thing?
Yes?
Please? I do suggest, I've listened to many, many people coming onto the line, and I do suggest that they seek God with all their heart, in all sincerity,
Well,
and
thank you
that
very
they
much.
seek him and ask him to deliver them from this bondage, which is of the devil.
Okay, thank you very much for giving us your view. Good night. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I was going to speak to Peter Martin.
You're speaking to him right now, and you're on the air.
Is that you, Peter?
Yes.
Right, now, listen.
I'm listening. Could you speak up a bit?
Figures?
Could you... Ah, that's better. Could you speak up a bit, please?
Could I speak up a bit?
Yep.
Now, listen, Peter, I'm a member of a surf club.
Yes.
Everything.
Yes.
And a married friend of mine.
I'm sorry, but you're not speaking up loud enough.
Can you
Could
hear me now?
speak into the mouthpiece?
Right.
Right.
Now, a great friend of mine from the surf club turned out a homo.
Yes.
But you try and tell me...
Speak up, please.
One reason...
Yes.
That you might remember a couple of years ago, flats were torn down at Wallara, and he was found up in the rafters with a girl.
Uh-huh. I think you've got your radio on, haven't you?
Very good.
I think you've got your radio on.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Could you turn your radio off?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hang on?
Well, yeah, we can for about 30 seconds because
Right.
I've got a large number of calls.
Right.
Okay.
You can hang on?
Yes, I'll hang on.
Right.
And we're talking about homosexuality, and the number is 929-5555. And my name is Peter Martin, and we're waiting for the fellow to turn off his radio.
You got me loud and clear now?
I've got you loud and clear now.
Like I'm on the PMJ.
All right. Let's
friend
make it
of mine.
short, eh? Because we want to give other people an opportunity to express their views as well.
Everything. He was
Right.
homo,
Yes?
and you might remember 2 years ago, a block of flats were pulled down at Wallara, and he was found in the roof, the rafters, with a girl.
Mm-hmm. All right. Good. Well, that's certainly worth something to think about.
Could you?
Right. Well, thanks very much for your call. Okay?
Well, I'd like that explained, just...
Well, I don't know. All right, perhaps some of our listeners can explain them. Good night. Good evening.
Oh, good evening.
Yes, ma'am.
I think I'm the first female homosexual that you've had ring in tonight.
Yeah, I think you are.
And I'm very proud to be one. There's just one thing I'd like to answer of the things that you've said tonight, is the questions you've asked about parents. I've had a much better relationship with my parents, in fact, not only with my parents, but with all their friends and everybody else connected in that sort of peer group since they've known about my homosexuality.
How long ago did you tell them?
Oh, I told them about 12 months ago.
Mm-hmm. Did it worry you at first?
Yeah, well, you know, it was a little worrying about how they'd take it. I think because this is because of our continual underestimation of people.
Yeah. How did they take
especially
it?
Parents.
How did they take it?
They took it very well. They were a bit apprehensive at first, but there was, in fact, I think they probably knew, but there was no, you know, they were really great and they're really fabulous now. In fact, not long ago, my mother threw a party for me. It's one of the best parties I've ever had. And she personally rang up and asked camp men and camp women.
I bet you feel proud of your folks now, eh?
They good?
I bet you feel proud of your folks now.
I don't know that one has to feel proud of them.
Well, don't you have a certain amount of respect for them?
The point I tried to make is that we so continually underestimate one another.
Yeah.
And it really, the way you express your sexuality is not important. You know, it's just the person that you are, and that's all that is important.
Right. Okay. Let's take another couple of calls, and thank you for calling.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. We're talking about homosexuality. Good evening. Hello.
Good evening.
Yes, sir.
I was only talking to a friend 2 days ago.
Yeah.
About this. Or when I say a friend, it was about 3 or 4 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't help but say this. I don't think it was very well taken either, but by the same token, I think I'm pretty right in saying this, that I think the way a person is, whether they're homosexuals or not, now I'm not one myself, I don't know how people could be, but by the same token, I think if that's the way they are, I think providing it's kept between themselves and out of public, and just kept in private life, I don't think there's anything wrong with it myself.
Good, well, that's good. That's good to hear. Thanks for calling, okay?
Okay.
Bye. Hello?
Hello.
Yes?
I would just like to speak to those people who've rung up as Christians.
Yes?
Speaking as a Christian homosexual myself, and a member of Cross Section, which is a group of Christians within camp in New South Wales here. I think that, we surely have room for other interpretations of biblical passages from the ones that have been given tonight. The Sodom and Gomorrah story tells me clearly that the men of Sodom were inhospitable. They were not homosexual at all. And there's nothing in that passage to suggest that they were. There are rather greater passages of the Bible which would insist that we should treat mankind with the love which we would like to receive from mankind and which we indeed receive from God himself.
That's a very interesting point that you've brought up, and I wonder, because I've got quite a number of calls waiting, whether you could quickly tell us whether you had any personal conflict about being a Christian and being a homosexual as well.
I did have at first, because of the attitude of the established church, but I have been able, with the help of various clergy, to see that many people within the church take a rather judgmental attitude, the sort of attitude, indeed, that Jesus Christ told us not to take about other people.
And do you find that this attitude is changing now among the established churches?
It seems to be changing slowly, not in this part of the world yet. I think we have events at Macquarie University to remind us of that. But it's most certainly changing in other parts of the world, and change is coming slowly here too.
Well, thank you very much for calling.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. We're talking about homosexuality on 9295555. I hope you can get through. Good evening.
Peter,
Oh, wait a minute. You're way down. You sound like you're calling me from Timbuktu. Could you speak up?
Yes, can you hear me now?
No, I'm sorry. I'm dreadfully sorry about it. I would love to have heard your comments, but your phone line is so bad that we can't broadcast it. I'm sorry about that, okay?
Okay, I'll come back.
Well, I hope you can call back, okay? Right, thanks. Sorry about that. Sometimes this happens. Good night. Good evening. I'm trying to say hello.
Hello.
Yes?
I think you probably have excluded people who are bisexual.
Well, this is, you see, we've got limited time, and what
yes, well, I've been waiting, and you told me to sort of stay on.
Yeah, okay. Of course, sexuality covers a broad spectrum. There's no such thing as a pure heterosexual person or a pure homosexual person. There are various grades in between. So, having said that, what do you have to say?
I have absolutely nothing to say on that, except that am I talking now on the program,
yes,
or
you
am
are.
I talking to you?
Yes, no, you're talking on the program.
I am. Well, it's a sort of a minor point, obviously, but I rather think that people who are sort of bisexual are excluded from everybody's point of view. That they sort of suffer from a certain amount of persecution because they're rejected by the homosexuals and also rejected by heterosexuals.
Is that so? Do you find this? I'm not suggesting that you yourself are bisexual, but I suppose this is true. That you're neither one thing or the other.
Well, it's a fairly difficult situation to be in because. While homosexuality is currently enjoying a certain sort of trendy approval, what about the people who happen to fall in between? And there are very, very many people, surprisingly many, who do.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, it's a problem that I've come across in my own personal life, and well, I don't particularly mind being rejected by various people. I think it's rather sad for people who do mind.
Well, that's something to think about, isn't it? Look, I'd like to take another couple of calls because we've only got about 3 minutes left, and thank you for your views.
You're entirely welcome.
Bye. Hello.
Hello?
Yes?
I'd like to... I'm a homosexual.
Yes?
My parents know about my homosexuality and they've accepted it. Am I going on?
You are on air right now.
Good. Well, my parents, or my mother knows, my father doesn't. He's a person I can't tell. But my mother...
Why is that?
Personality, really. But my mother accepts it to the point that she's offered to help me and my friends in a sub-organisation of camp which is called Phone a Friend. In any way that she can.
Well, there you are.
Can I tell you a little about Phone a Friend?
Well, I don't want to particularly delve into any organisation because then we might have other people wanting to talk about organisations. It's rather interesting that you've brought up this particular aspect because, after all, it may be of some help to other people. Okay, can we just leave it at that and take another call?
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good night. Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes. You're talking about homosexuality.
Yes, sir.
Well, I had a small problem of homosexuality up in a small mining town in northern Queensland. And if they could only sort of keep it to themselves instead of broadcasting it about, wouldn't you think that would be a better idea than...
Yeah, although some people think, as the slogan has it, it's much better to be blatant than latent.
Guy, married man, and there was double rooms up there.
Well, let's not go into any specific cases, okay?
Well, okay then, fair enough.
Right.
And they ring it together.
Yeah.
So, what do you expect to do when they drop the hard word on you?
Well, I don't know. Okay, thanks for calling. Bye. Somebody's hung up and been impatient, so we'll take another call. Hello.
Well, Peter.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm the guy that rang up before, got a bad line.
Yes.
I'm not a homosexuality. I enjoy contact with the opposite sex far too much.
Yes.
But I think the whole thing's out of context. If a man forces himself upon a person of his own sex, it is a criminal...
Well, I don't know whether it's a question of forcing themselves. I think it's a matter of choice.
Hang on. If he forces himself upon a person of his own sex, it's a criminal charge, the same as if a man rapes a woman. Okay, now, that's it, finish. If a person has his own private life and he wants to lead it, I don't think we should interfere with it. The same as society now accepts the fact that people are allowed intercourse outside of marriage. It's something that's now accepted and nothing said about it, and no religion into it or anything else.
Well, okay, right, we'll have to leave it at that for tonight because we've come to the parting of the ways. Thank you for being part of the program, and tomorrow we'll have some more subjects for you. This is Peter Martin. Good night.
It's me.